The front door creaked as Anna stepped inside the house, the familiar scent of lavender and old wood enveloping her. It felt like a sanctuary, but today it was a trap. Her heart raced as she caught sight of the framed photos lining the hallway, their smiles now heavy with haunting memories. "Mum," she called, her voice barely rising above a whisper, echoing against the silence that wrapped around her. Anxiety coiled in her stomach, twisting tighter as she moved deeper into the house. The light from the late afternoon sun slanted through the windows, illuminating the dust in the air, making everything feel ghostly. She could feel it in her bones, the absence of warmth, laughter, and chaotic love that used to fill this space. Today was supposed to be special. She had driven 3 hours from college for this moment, the surprise she had planned for her mother's birthday. But something was wrong. The kitchen was empty. The birthday cake sat alone on the table, beautiful but untouched. Anna's fingers brushed against the frosted roses, shockwaves sparking through her. "Mum?" She tried again, louder now, her voice trembling. A chill ran down her spine. Where was her mother? Then the sound, a soft sobbing, muffled and broken. Anna's heart dropped. Racing forward, she dashed towards the sound, her palms suddenly cold and clammy. In the dim light of the living room, she found her mother slumped on the floor against the couch, her face buried in her hands. "Mum!" Anna exclaimed, rushing over. She dropped to her knees, panic flooding her. "What's wrong?" Her mother looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks, her face crumpling like paper. "Anna, honey, I'm so sorry," she gasped, her breath hitching. "I didn't want you to find out this way." "What do you mean?" Anna's voice caught in her throat. "Find out what? What's going on?" In that moment, her mother seemed to age a decade, the lines on her face deepening with sorrow. "It's your father. He's leaving us." For a breathless second, the words hung in the air like a dark fog, suffocating and heavy. Anna's chest tightened, and she felt the ground beneath her shift. "Leaving? What do you mean?" "Mom, you can't be serious." Her mother shook her head, her body rocking slightly, as if trying to find a rhythm in the chaos. "He's found someone else. Someone younger." "Older?" The word escaped Anna's mouth like a bark. It pierced the air, sharp and raw. How can he do this? After everything. After all the love, all the years. Tears brimmed in her eyes, but Anna blinked furiously, refusing to let them fall. The thought of her father walking away, walking out of their lives, sent bile rising in her throat. The laughter, the family dinners, the camping trips, they weren't just memories, they were her foundation. "I thought we had something real," she spat, her fists clenching. How could he throw it away like it meant nothing? His face flashed in her mind. Her father smiling, the twinkle in his eye every time he looked at her. She had always felt like the center of his universe. The truth crashed down around her. "Mom, how can you let him do this? You need to fight for him." "I've tried, Anna. I really have," her mother said, her voice breaking. "But he's made his choice. There's nothing I can say to change his mind." "Nothing?" Anna's voice rose again, trembling with disbelief. "He's just going to walk out after all these years? Just like that?" Each word felt like a slap to the face, a fresh wound reopening with every syllable. Her mother looked away, shame twisting her features. "It's not always that simple. It's hard. Relationships change over time. I thought we could make it work. But sometimes love isn't enough." Anna felt the world around her begin to spin. Love isn't enough. That phrase jabbed at her like a knife. It echoed in her mind, taunting her, leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. "What about the promises?" she whispered, her voice faltering. "What about the vows?" Tension coursed through the room. Anna's breath quickened and she wanted to scream, to shake her mother and demand answers. But a sickening part of her knew that no amount of shaking would bring clarity to a broken heart. She stood abruptly, pacing the small living room, her heart racing. Hadn't they built their lives on love? Weren't they supposed to face everything together? The years of laughter, the shared dreams, all of it, now shattered. Maybe you should call him, Mum. Maybe he'll listen to you, Anna pleaded, her voice rising in desperation. You can't just let him walk away. Her mother's gaze hardened slightly, the sorrow shifting to something darker, a mix of resignation and defiance. And what if he doesn't want to talk? What if he's made up his mind? I can't keep fighting for someone who has already chosen to leave me. Anna's heart sank, the weight of her mother's words suffocating. No amount of love could fix this. The silence that followed felt unbearable. It settled between them, thick and heavy, filling the gaps where hope once resided. As Anna turned to leave, she caught her mother's eye, a flicker of something deeper sparking between them, an understanding, a shared pain. Anna, her mother's voice broke through the silence. But the pressing need to escape the suffocating reality felt stronger than the bond they once shared. Don't, Anna said, cutting her off. She felt her own heart cracking, and with a shaky breath, she stepped back, embracing the fear that coiled around her heart. Just don't. The quiet enveloped them again, and in that moment, both understood that love, in its rawest form, wasn't always enough. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to fight for. As Anna reached the door, her mind spun with uncertainty, the weight of a life built on love crumbling in her hands. The door slammed shut, echoing through the empty house like the crack of thunder. Sarah stood frozen in the hallway, breath caught in her throat. The world around her faded into a blur. It was just her and the weight of the truth. Is this really how it ends? She whispered to the shadows, her voice barely a flutter. Silence wrapped itself around her like a blanket, thick and suffocating. She could still hear the sound of that door, still feel the tremors it sent through her. She had never imagined their love could shatter like this. Just 4 months earlier, they had whispered dreams into each other's ears under twinkling stars, each promise painting a life they were sure would bloom. But strong words had become paper thin. Today, they had woven themselves into accusations that cut deeper than she'd ever thought possible. A loud sigh escaped her, a desperate release that filled the silence. She wrapped her arms around herself, seeking warmth where there was none. How did we get here? She wondered. Every moment they'd shared flooded her mind. The laughter, the stolen kisses, the late-night talks, but they were just memories now, splintered and distant. The hallway felt upright but twisted, as if her mind were trying to twist these moments together again. The wooden floor clicked under her feet as she moved slowly toward the kitchen, where the remnants of their last conversation hung thick in the air. Why? She could still hear Marcus yelling, his voice raw and jagged. Why can't you see it, Sarah? I can't keep pretending anymore. His frustration had pierced through her, shattering her heart a little at a time. She remembered the defiance in his eyes, how it turned into sorrow as he walked out, taking all the warmth with him. Sarah gripped the edge of the counter, nails digging into the oak. I just need to understand, she said into the empty space, voice trembling. What didn't I see? The kitchen felt like a museum, filled with frozen moments, where everything had been right. The pizza box from their movie night sat half open on the table, a relic of happier times now tainted. Her gaze drifted to the framed photos on the wall, where smiles had once radiated a kind of joy that now seemed impossibly far away. Suddenly the buzzing of her phone jolted her. She nearly jumped, clutching the counter tighter. She glanced at the screen. A text from Marcus glowed back at her. Can we talk? Talk. The word echoed through her like a bell tolling in the mist. Anger flared within her, mingling with a desperate yearning. How could he just walk away and then ask to talk, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't torn their world apart. She wanted to throw the phone against the wall, to shatter it like her heart felt. Yet, as her finger hovered over the screen, she hesitated. The thought of them, words, slipping into the air that would reshape everything, stopped her cold. "What do you want?" she typed, her heart racing. Each word felt heavy, laced with the memories of love and betrayal. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The weight felt agonizing, each second stretched on, and she was suddenly acutely aware of the ticking clock overhead, its hands moving slowly but deliberately. Her heart thudded with uncertainty, matching the rhythm of time passing. She leaned back against the counter, eyes staring into the vacant void of the kitchen. Moments later, the phone buzzed again. "Meet me at the park in 10. Tension coiled within her like a spring. The park, it was their spot. The place where they had shared dreams and laughter, where everything felt right. But it had become a graveyard of hope now, where their light had flickered and dimmed. Will she really walk back there? Her mind raced. Part of her screamed to refuse, to linger in the broken pieces. But another part, the part that still clung to the idea of love, urged her to go. What if this was the moment she found clarity? With a shuddering breath, she nodded to herself. She couldn't let fear hold her captive. She had to confront this. Whatever it was, she had to face him. The tightness in her chest didn't ease as she grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. The air was cool and crisp outside, brushing against her cheeks like a bittersweet reminder of their simplest moments. She walked quickly, trying to shake the doubts ringing in her ears. What if he didn't want to fix things? What if he had already made up his mind? As she approached the park, the trees swayed in the breeze, casting shadows on the path ahead. She glimpsed their bench, the very spot where they'd carved their initials, promises etched in wood now worn by time. Marcus was already there, leaning against the bench, hands shoved deep into his pockets. He looked lost under the glow of the fading sun, an expression that pulled her stomach tight. She took a deep breath, grounding herself as she stepped closer. "Sarah," he said, voice low, almost hesitant. The sound of her name on his lips reminded her of everything she wished hadn't fallen apart. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words danced on her tongue, slipping away as she met his gaze. He shifted nervously, and for a moment, the air between them felt thick with unspoken questions. They both knew this moment would change everything, but the truth of what lay ahead remained tangled and uncertain. Then, just as he opened his mouth, Sarah felt her heart race. "Marcus, But before she could finish, a loud crash echoed in the distance. It sliced through the moment, leaving both of them startled. A scream followed, and her heart raced. It was not just a sound, it was an urgent call, an interruption that demanded her attention. In that split second, the world shifted once again. As they turned toward the chaos, Sarah realized that whatever resolution they might find here was overshadowed by something larger, something they could not ignore. "Stay here," Marcus shouted, already moving in the direction of the north. But she felt an instinctive pull to follow him, to grasp onto this moment as the unraveling continued. The cliff they stood on was crumbling beneath them, and she was not ready to let the ground fall away. Not yet. The door creaked open, and Marcus stood frozen, staring at the mess of shattered glass and spilled wine that defined the room. His breath caught in his throat as he took a step inside, feeling reality unravel around him. This was supposed to be a moment of celebration. His birthday, the night his fiancée, Lily, promised to reveal the results of her big job interview. But tonight, the air was thick with something else entirely. Her back was turned, slumped against the kitchen counter. The glow from the overhead light cast a harsh shadow across her face, obscuring her expression. but not her trembling shoulders. He could hear the sharp intake of her breath, a sound filled with anguish and desperation, like she was fighting against something that was already lost. Lily. His voice was barely a whisper. The air between them felt electric, full of unspoken words and unshed tears. She turned slowly, her eyes red-rimmed. For a moment he saw everything, her pain, her shame, the weight of secrets spilling out like the wine that stained the floor. Marcus, I didn't mean for you to find out this way. The words sliced through him, raw and cruel. Find out what way? What happened? He scanned the room, searching for clues that didn't jump out at him. What the hell happened here? Lily took a shaky breath, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. It's about the interview. I can't take the job. Her voice was unsteady, quivering like a taut string, ready to snap. I can't go to New York. He blinked, confusion turning to anger. Why not? This is everything you wanted. You've worked so hard for this. I know, she shouted, the sound echoing off the walls. But it was all a lie. His heart raced, fear and disbelief twisting in his gut. What do you mean? What are you talking about? There was a pause, a silence heavy enough to drown in. Lily's eyes fell away from him, fixing on something far beyond the chaos around them. She seemed to collapse inward, like a house of cards about to topple. I found some stuff in their file. They're involved in things I can't be a part of. What? What things? Illegal stuff, Marcus? I'm not the only one who applied. Their recruitment has attracted, let's just say, people who don't play by the rules. His mind raced as he pieced it together. So you're saying you're backing out because of some shady business? He couldn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it. You have to go through with this. You can't just throw away your dreams. Dreams don't come worth sacrificing my integrity, she snapped, her voice breaking at the end. I can't sell my soul for a paycheck, okay? Why didn't you tell me this sooner? His frustration was boiling over. Why wait until the last minute? Because I was scared. Her voice cracked. I didn't want to let you down or ruin your birthday. The truth of her fear settled over him like a fog. So instead, you destroy everything by keeping it from me? I thought I could figure it out. She sobbed. I thought I could make it work, but given what I know now, I can't. I won't. The room shrank around him, the shadows deepening. Her words hung between them like an unseen chasm, splitting everything they built apart. He wanted to reach out, to bridge that divide, but every time he tried, the distance seemed impossibly vast. What did they tell you? He pressed, heart hammering in his chest. What did you find? She swallowed hard, tears now spilling down her cheeks. They're in bed with some pretty dangerous people. I can't get involved with that. Lily, his voice trembled, caught between hope and despair. You can still call them. You can tell them you've changed your mind. They'll never let me walk away, she cried, stepping back, her fists clenching at her sides as if bracing against an invisible storm. You don't understand what kind of people we're dealing with. Then tell me what they did. Her silence screamed louder than any words could. He could feel the tension crackle like static in the air, the weight of her secrets threatening to crush them both. Finally, she broke, her breath hitching. They know who I am now, Marcus. They know I found out, and I'm afraid of what they'll do. For a moment, time stood still. The fear in her eyes seeped into him, taking root, flooding his veins with ice-cold dread. They weren't just talking about a lost job anymore. They were talking about lives. The reality of what she had stepped into crashed down on him, heavy and unyielding. Lily. He stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. We'll figure it out together. I promise But as he reached for her, she took another step back, shaking her head, eyes wide. "No, Marcus, I can't put you in danger. You have to stay away from this. You don't know what we're up against." At the edge of his understanding, her words hit harder than a punch. "Lily, whatever this is, we'll face it together. You're not alone in this." She shook her head again. "I don't know if we can survive this," she admitted, eyes brimming with unshed tears. And then, just like that, the door slammed open behind them. In the doorway stood a stranger, silhouetted against the hallway light, face partially obscured, but unmistakably a threat. "Looks like we have some unfinished business," he said, a smile that never reached his eyes stretching across his face. Lily gasped, her expression shifting from fear to sheer panic. As the shadows deepened and the room felt smaller than ever, Marcus recognized the truth. They were caught in something much larger than themselves, and whatever lay ahead would either tear them apart or hold them together in ways they never imagined possible. The shattered glass crunched under Ava's feet as she stepped into the dimly lit room, her heart racing. She barely recognized the place that had once been full of laughter and light. Everything felt cold and hollow now. A low hum of memories played in her mind, drowning out the sound of her shattering hopes. The photo frames that lined the walls lay broken, just like her spirit. The biggest frame, cracked right down the middle, held the last picture of the four of them together, smiling carefree and blissfully unaware of the storm that loomed ahead. But now, as she stared at the fractured smiles of her best friends, choked gasps erupted from her throat like a broken dam releasing a torrent of emotions. "Why?" she whispered, the word hanging in the air like unanswered questions, mixed with desperate prayer. The room felt heavy with memories that now felt ghostly, whispering the truth she had dreaded confronting. This wasn't just the end of friendships. It was the end of a dream, a future they had built together, now reduced to rubble. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her back to reality. It was Tommy. He had promised to meet her here. A part of her wanted to scream at him, to unleash the anger that bubbled just beneath her skin. But another part wanted to hide until it all went away. She felt her heart race. Could she really do this? She stood in the center of the room, frozen by a wave of uncertainty. The door creaked open, and Tommy walked in, his face drawn and pale. The warmth in his brown eyes was gone, replaced by shadows of guilt and regret. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. "Hey," he said softly, his voice cracking like the glass beneath Ava's feet. "Hey." Her voice was barely more than a whisper, as she struggled to hold back her emotions. Tommy stepped further inside, rubbing the back of his neck, a nervous habit she remembered well. "I'm sorry for everything, Ava. I never meant for it to come to this, I swear." A bitter laugh escaped her lips, something raw and twisted. "You never meant for what? To hurt us, to betray us? Because, Tommy, that's exactly what you did." Each word felt like a knife, slicing through the heavy air. His shoulders slumped, and he looked away, the confession hanging between them. I know, but it just... Everything spiraled out of control. What a convenient excuse. She shot back, rage and hurt intertwining as she balled her fists. "You know how much we cared about each other, about the future we had planned. And you threw it all away for what? An impulse? A mistake? I thought it was just a fling." His voice fell to a murmur, but the pain in his eyes spoke volumes. Her heart felt like it was shattering all over again. Just a fling? The word echoed in the empty room, a haunting reminder of the fractures that had opened between them. "This was more than just a mistake for you and Lena. We all had dreams, Tommy. Now I don't know where I fit in anymore." The weight of her words landed hard. Tommy opened his mouth to respond, his eyes welling with unshed tears. But no sound emerged. The silence between them morphed into a chasm, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Ava stepped closer, her heart pounding in her ears. Do you even care about how this affects me? About us? Or were we just a part of your good time? Her voice trembled, caught between anger and sorrow. You care, Ava. I do! He stepped forward, desperation etched on his face. What happened was a mistake, but it doesn't change how I feel about you. I don't want to lose you. The truth of his words broke through the storm swirling in her mind. Memories of laughter, tears, and plans for the future flooded her. Moments that had once felt so vibrant, now dulled by betrayal. But you already lost me. The moment you chose someone else. I didn't choose her. I made a mistake, and I can't take it back. Tommy's voice grew sharper, cack rising in him as he took another step forward, reaching for her hand. Please, just listen to me. Ava recoiled, a mix of hurt and anger coursing through her. Listen. To what? More excuses. You can't just erase this. Do you even know what you put me through? What I've lost? He was silent then, the raw truth staring them both in the face. His hope flickered like a flame in the wind. As uncertainty crept back in, I thought we could move past it together. But now what, Tommy? She crossed her arms, needing distance to shield her heart from the truth. Now, I'm afraid I'll never get to show you how much I really care, he said softly, each word a heartbeat in the emptiness of the room. Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, the world around them faded. All the anger, pain, and grief hung suspended in the air, giving way to the realization that maybe love wasn't enough anymore. With one final shaky breath, Ava took a step back. Maybe we'll never get the chance, Tom. Maybe the future we dreamed of is lost forever. Her voice quavered, and she felt an icy twist in her chest. The silence was deafening. Then suddenly a loud crash echoed from outside, drawing their attention. They turned to the sounds of chaos and commotion, unsure of what would come next. A siren wailed in the distance, closer now, as the reality of their shattered dreams loomed heavier than ever. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, as Jenna stood in front of the flickering candlelight, her heart beating louder than it ever had. Every breath felt like a betrayal, each inhale pulling the painful truth around her like a heavy cloak. She turned to Alex, whose eyes held shadows of dread she hadn't noticed before. You lied to me, she whispered, a tremor in her voice. No, Jenna, please just let me explain. Explain what? Her voice cracked, the words like glass cutting through the silence. Explain how you've been seeing him behind my back, the same man who destroyed your life, the same man I thought we were escaping together. Alex flinched at each word, stepping back as if her anger was a physical force. I never meant for you to find out like this. His face was pale, but she could see the resolve in his eyes. It's not what you think. Jenna stared at him, the betrayal sinking deep, mixing with disbelief. Then tell me, what do I think? That my best friend, my partner in everything, has been hiding a monster from me? You can't possibly think I'll just accept it. She turned away, forcing down the wave of nausea rising in her throat. The walls seemed to close in, the world narrowing to just them, caught in this cocoon of hurt. It was suffocating. She could almost hear her heart challenged, asking her if this was truly the person she thought she knew. Or was he just a stranger wearing a mask? Jenna, listen, Alex said, stepping closer again, his hands raised in a plea for understanding. What happened with Jake was before I met you. I thought he was gone for good. I thought I was free. But you weren't, she shot back, spinning to face him, eyes blazing. And you thought it was okay to pull me into your mess. You dragged me into your chaos. And now I'm supposed to just believe you. The words hung between them, with tension. There was a moment where silence reigned, the kind that fills up a room until it feels almost unbearable. Jenna could feel her pulse in her ears, each beat echoing the betrayal that coursed through her veins. He's not who you think he is anymore, Alex said, the desperation creeping into his voice. I swear to you, it's not like that anymore. You wanted me to trust you while you hid this from me. She stepped back, needing space to breathe, after everything we've been through. After the promises we made to each other. I wanted to protect you, he argued, his voice rising, echoing against the walls. I thought I had turned him away for good. And then he showed up. I just thought I could handle it. Handle it, Jenna interrupted, her voice climbing higher. With each accusation, hurt spilling over with anger. You thought you could handle a psycho who has torn apart people's lives. This isn't a game, Alex. You think it's okay to skirt the edges and still call this love. What kind of love is this? I can't do this. I can't even look at you. She turned away again, the tears welling in her eyes, no longer eager to fight. The pain was overwhelming, a storm inside her chest that threatened to drown her. Alex's form behind her felt like a ghost already, one she had to let go of, a memory already slipping through her fingers. Please don't walk away, he pleaded, his voice trembling, cracking like glass under pressure. I made a mistake, but I never stopped caring about you. You're my everything. Jenna paused, a deep, sharp pain twisting in her gut. You've changed everything. Now I don't know who I am without the idea of us. She was shaking, but she didn't want him to see. Instead, she let the tears fall silently. You're the one who wanted to escape everything. But now I see you're not even free yourself. I thought I was, he admitted, the weight of his confession crashing against the air. I thought I could mask it. I thought I could keep you safe. Safe, she choked on the word as if it were poison. By lying to me, by running back to that nightmare. I thought I could keep it all from you, Jenna. I thought, his voice dropped to a whisper, the shake of his hands echoing the fear in his heart. I thought I could handle it on my own. I thought I wouldn't need to drag you back into my past. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers, vulnerability lacing his voice. You deserve the truth, and I'm ready to tell you everything. But I need you to listen, no matter how hard it is. But before she could respond, a loud banging echoed from the door. Her heart raced, not from Alex, but from the dread creeping back in. She glanced at the door as another series of knocks rained down like a storm. This wasn't just a friendly visit. Who is it? Jenna's voice was barely more than a whisper, as she instinctively stepped back toward Alex, seeking the safety of his presence. The knocking continued, louder, more insistent. Alex exchanged a glance with her, fear blending with uncertainty. I don't know. Just stay behind me, okay? He knelt to grab something from the drawer. She caught a glimpse of a small, shiny object. But she couldn't focus. The dread was wrapping tighter around her throat. Bam! The door flew open, revealing a tall figure cloaked in darkness. Shadowed by the dim light, Jenna's heart stopped, the world tilting as she recognized the familiar shape. Jake. The room held its breath, time freezing in that split second of recognition. Everything Jenna thought she had escaped came rushing back, drowning her in horror. She felt Alex tense beside her, a wall but also a warning. Surprise, love, Jake said, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Miss me? In that moment, Jenna understood the depths of pain, of betrayal etched in her heart. The plan conceived in pain was about to reveal a truth far darker than either of them could handle. Sarah stood at the edge of the crumbling cliff, wind whipping around her, her heart pounding like a war drum in her ears. This was the moment she had both dreaded and hoped for. Freedom was almost within her grasp, yet it felt so impossibly far away. What are you doing, Sarah? A voice called from behind her. It was Ben, his face twisted with worry, eyes almost pleading. You're going to fall. She glanced back at him, his silhouette stark against the setting sun. an image that would be burned into her mind forever. But his concern felt like a heavy chain, holding her down when all she wanted was to fly. "I'm done being scared, Ben." Her voice trembled, strained by the weight of her fear and her longing. "I need to be free of this." "Free of what?" he asked, stepping closer, the gravel crunching under his shoes. "Gus, this? Don't you remember what we built together?" The air crackled between them like static electricity. Memories rushed in on Sarah, flooding her thoughts, a kaleidoscope of laughter, love, and broken promises. The way he had smiled at her on their first date, the way he had held her when she cried after her mother's funeral. Beautiful moments tarnished by the shadows that hung over them. Shadows that seemed to whisper betrayal in the stillness of night. "It's not just us anymore," she shouted, the words erupting bitterly from her throat. "You don't see how trapped I feel, how everything has become suffocating." His body tensed as he reached for her arm, fingers brushing her skin like a feather. Don't say it. We can work through this. Can we?" The question lodged painfully in her heart. Did she want to? She hardly recognized herself anymore. Every day was a struggle between the woman she used to be and the whispers of uncertainty that gnawed at her soul. "You don't understand. I need to find out who I am without you, without this life." A silence hung between them, thick and heavy. It drummed in her ears, drowned out the crashing waves below, the distant cries of gulls above. For a brief moment, she could see the fear flicker in his eyes, a raw reflection of her own. "Is this really what you want?" He searched her face, desperation twisting his features. To throw it all away? The memories? The laughter? To walk away from everything we fought for? Fought for? She echoed, bitterness mingling with sorrow. "I fought to be the perfect girlfriend, the partner who's always there, even when it wasn't what I wanted. I've lost myself in this, Ben. I can't keep pretending. The perfect girlfriend." His voice rose, panic mixed with disbelief. "What about us? Our dreams? Our future?" She swallowed hard, memories merging into visions that both tore at her heart and set it free. The quiet nights spent huddled together, planning out a life that was beginning to feel like someone else's fantasy. The dreams of adventure and exploration. But how they had all faded into routine. The mundane locked in an endless cycle. "Maybe those dreams were never ours," Sarah whispered, pain filling her voice with regret. Memories of suppressed aspirations flooded back, the artist she once wanted to be, the traveler who dreamed of far-off places. "You're not thinking clearly," Ben shouted, his voice echoing against the cliffs, harsh and raw. "You're just scared." "Then let me be scared," she shouted back, her voice cracking. It felt good to finally proclaim that hidden truth, to unleash everything she had stifled. "This is my life, Ben. I choose whether I fly or fall. And if I fail, then it's my failure." He took a step back, eyes wide, the distance between them expanding like a chasm. "You're about to jump off the edge, Sarah." "Maybe I need to," she rasped, adrenaline rushing through her veins, mingling with the pain of a heart being torn apart. The waves crashed violently against the rocks below, a symphony of chaos. What Ben failed to see was that this moment was not about an actual leap. It was about breaking free from the cage she had built around herself. She stood at the precipice, a tightrope stretched between uncertainty and liberation. "What if you jump and don't come back?" he asked, his voice suddenly soft, his facade crumbling. "Then that's my choice," she said, staring deep into his eyes, searching for a sliver of understanding. "But I can't stay here, pretending everything will just magically get better. I need to find myself. And if that means losing you, then I have to do it." A painful silence enveloped them again. It felt like their entire relationship was unfurling in that moment, revealing the frayed edges and the roots of resentment that had twisted and tangled beneath the surface. "Is this really what you want?" he finally breathed, the words hanging heavy, like a final plea. And in that split second, she realized that this was not just about finding herself. It was about acknowledging the love that had once been so strong, now battered and bruised. But wasn't it okay to walk away if it meant becoming whole again? "Yes," she breathed, the word tearing from her chest as tears spilled down her cheeks. But as she prepared to step closer to the edge, something dark flickered within her, a nagging doubt that felt both liberating and terrifying. Before she could react, she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "Sarah!" Ben shouted, lunging toward her. She stumbled back, heart racing, the cliff's edge disappearing beneath her feet. In that image, for a heartbeat suspended in time, she saw their love, a tangled mess of beautiful moments and bitter endings, and she wondered if holding on would save her, or if letting go would finally set her free. Lena stood alone at the edge of the cemetery, wind biting at her cheeks, the chill seeping deep into her bones. She stared down at the freshly turned earth, her heart racing, tears threatening to spill over. A single white rose rested gently atop the grave, marked with her mother's name, a name now forever tied to a secret, a betrayal that sliced deeper than any blade. She could still hear Benjamin's voice, low and soothing, right before everything changed. "Trust me, Lena. I swear on my life." How easily those words had rolled off his tongue, carving a path for her heart to follow. She had trusted him with everything, even when shadows of doubt crept into her mind. Now, those shadows had transformed into a suffocating darkness. "Why did you do it?" Lana whispered to the empty space around her, her voice cracking. She wanted to be angry, to scream, but the weight of her sorrow felt like a steel chain wrapped tightly around her chest. The heaviness of the truth pressed down on her, leaving her breathless. She hugged herself as if trying to ward off the memory of Benjamin's warmth. A twig snapped behind her, and Lena spun around, her heart pounding in her ears. She expected to see the wind playing tricks, but instead it was Billy, her brother, his eyes red-rimmed and full of fury. He stalked toward her, fists clenched at his sides, each step heavy with purpose. "Did you know?" he bit out, his voice low and trembling, his face twisted in a mixture of hurt and rage. "Did you know what he was doing?" Lena inhaled sharply, her chest constricting. "Billy, please." The words felt like broken glass. How could she explain? There were no easy answers, no way to justify her trust in Benjamin, the man who had not only betrayed her, but shattered her family. "Don't plead with me," Billy snapped, his voice rising. "I found the texts. He was lying to you, Lena. I trusted him too." A gust of wind swept by, carrying the scent of damp earth and a hint of decay. Lena's mind raced, flicking through memories like a movie reel. The laughter, the shared dreams, all poisoned by the truth she had uncovered too late. I thought he loved me," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Billy stepped closer, pain flickering in his eyes. "He used you, Lena. He left a note, said he was doing this for some bigger cause, and you were just a pawn to him." The revelation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Lena clenched her hands into fists, nails digging into her palms. She didn't want to believe it. She clung to the remnants of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a shred of truth hidden in the lies she'd been fed. But deep down, she felt it, the cold clenching of betrayal chilling every tender memory. "How could you?" she began, then faltered, a knot forming in her throat. "He was everything to me, Billy. He was a monster, hiding behind a mask." Billy shot back, his voice trembling with the weight of his frustration. "And he hurt Mom. Do you even get that? This is all his fault." The finality of his words hung between them like a chasm, one that felt impossible to bridge. Lena's breath quickened, her thoughts spiraling. She thought of the last time she had seen her mother, laughing on the porch, the sun setting behind her, casting a warm glow. She had never imagined that shortly after, everything would change. She had never imagined her brother confronting her about the man she loved, the man who had hurt them both. With shaking hands, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, the note from Benjamin, his final confession. She unfolded it, reading the words that had seared into her heart. "Lena, I'm sorry, but sometimes lives must be sacrificed for the greater good. You'll understand one day." Billy snatched it from her hands, his face twisted in an emotion Lena couldn't decipher. "Understand? He killed Mom, and you're still defending him. This isn't about the greater good. It's just a coward's way of justifying his deception. Stop it." The plea erupted from Lena, and for a heartbeat silence fell between them, thick and suffocating. Then in that silence, something shifted. A small crack of realization broke through. All those years of their lives, they had been in this together. The memories shared, the laughter, the love. But this betrayal pulled at them like a rift that could tear them apart forever. Billy stepped back, tears glistening in his eyes. "You have to let him go. For Mom. For you. He doesn't deserve your heart." And there it was, the heart of the matter. As much as she fought against it, she knew deep down, trapped within her heart, was the truth. The truth she had wanted to ignore. The truth that Benjamin was no longer the man she thought she loved. But could she let him go? Could she sever the last tie to a life that crumbled in front of her? Silence stretched between them, Davis's words echoing in her heart. The stillness of the cemetery weighed on her, pressing branches swinging like pendulums against the gathering storm clouds above. She could no longer stay in that twilight space between grief and fury. She had to choose. "I can't," Lena said softly, the words trembling on her lips. Then, without warning, a figure emerged from the shadows, dripping with rain, and revealing themselves as a silhouette, cloaked in darkness. It was Benjamin, his face twisted in a mix of remorse and something else, something dangerous. "Lena," he called softly, his voice cutting through the heavy air like a knife. "I'm here to explain." Her breath caught in her throat as she felt her world tilt again. The shadows of vengeance were awakening, and she didn't know whether she should flee from him or stand her ground. Either way, the past had come to claim them. Josie's heart raced as she pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like they were warning her against what lay inside. The living room was dim, the only light coming from a small table lamp that sputtered weakly, casting shadows on the wall. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw Nick sitting there, hunched over, his fingers gripping a crumpled piece of paper. "Nick?" she said, her voice shaking. He looked up, and the light caught the sheen of unshed tears in his eyes. "Josie," he said softly, his voice almost a whisper. It felt as if a weight had anchored itself in her stomach, pulling her down. She took a step forward, her heart pounding louder with every beat. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep the panic from her voice. She could feel the air thickening around them, the silence stretching, heavy with unsaid words. I found something," he said, his gaze dropping back to the paper in his hands. He didn't need to elaborate. The way he fidgeted told her everything. "I didn't want to believe it, but here it is." Her eyes darted to the paper, but he folded it closed, tucking it away like a hidden truth. "Show me," she urged, a chill running down her spine. Nick hesitated, tension crackling in the space between them. He finally took a deep breath and spoke, his words trembling. "It's about Mark." The name hit her like a slap, and she flinched instinctively. Mark had been her closest friend for years, the one who supported her dreams when self-doubt gnawed at her. "What about him?" she demanded, though deep down she feared the answer. Nick clenched his jaw, his fingers tightening around his knees. "He was lying to us, Josie. He's been feeding information to Jeremy." The name sent her world tumbling. Jeremy was their rival, the one who always seemed to know their next move, their next plan to win the pitch competition. "No," she said, shaking her head, not wanting to accept what was unfolding before her. "You have to be mistaken. Mark wouldn't do that. His family." "Family?" Nick echoed, his voice rising in anger and hurt. "Family doesn't stab you in the back." Josie's chest tightened. "We can't just blame him without proof. You need to give me more than just accusation." "That's what this paper is for," he said, his voice now low, each word chipped with stone. He pulled it out again, unfolding it reluctantly, before slamming it onto the coffee table. Her hands trembled as she reached over, and she stared down at a series of messages exchanged between Mark and Jeremy. Words she didn't want to read jumped out at her. Plans, secrets, betrayals. Her breath caught once more, grief clawing at her throat. "No. What else can you call it?" "He's been setting us up to fail," Nick said, his voice cracking. "This isn't just a mistake, Josie. This is a choice." Anger flared inside her, a rush of heat chasing away the chill that had settled in her bones. "So what? We're supposed to just throw him away, kick him out of our lives?" Nick's eyes widened as her words lashed at him, raw and unfiltered. "He's already left us. I want to trust you, but it's hard when someone we believed in has been playing us like pawns." The weight of his gaze bore down on her, and she could feel the truth slicing through her defense. It was surreal and suffocating. With every breath, the stakes felt higher. "I can't believe this. I won't." Nick leaned back, arms crossed, frustration dancing in the corners of his mouth. Sometimes denial is easier than facing the truth. The space between them crackled with tension, so thick it felt tangible. Josie's heart ached with betrayal, not just from Mark, but from the person she loved, the one who was ready to turn his back on their friend without hesitation. "You make it sound so simple." "Because it is." Nick spat back, but his eyes softened almost instantly, as if he regretted the outburst. "But pretending everything's okay won't change what is. There's a competition coming up, Josie, and if Mark's on the other side..." "What are you saying?" she interrupted, her heart racing again. This was no longer just about loyalty or friendship. This was about everything they had worked for. Tension hung in the air, heavy and unbearable. "I'm saying that we can't go into this blind. We need to know where he stands." Susie's hands shook as she searched Nick's eyes, looking for a flicker of warmth, a hint of understanding, but all she found was a cold resolve that sent chills spiraling through her. "And what if he's still on our side? What if he's been trying to help?" "Then we'll face that when the time comes," Nick said, his eyes unyielding. Silence reigned again, their breaths intermingling, both caught in their own worlds of pain. Josie's heart was racing, each beat echoing louder than the last. The space between them felt like a chasm, deep and impossible to cross. "Josie, we can't afford to be naive," he said, and in that moment, she felt lost. The weight of everything hit her like an avalanche. "So what are we doing here? You want me to turn away from someone who might still care?" Nick's face fell, vulnerability cracking through. "I want us to survive this together." The desperation in his tone turned her insides to knots. "But at what cost? Nick, what are we losing along the way?" She watched him closely as something shifted in the room. One wrong choice could end everything they had built. But what if they lost a friend in the process? And as the silence extended, each second packed with unspoken fears and betrayals, she realized he was right. But so was she. A slow breath crossed her lips as she felt the world darkening around them. With everything hanging in the balance, she opened her mouth to respond, but the door crashed open behind her. And there stood Mark. His expression was a raw mix of confusion and hurt, and Josie's heart dropped. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice teetering on the brink of panic. And just like that, the fragile thread of loyalty and trust hung in the air, ready to snap. It was the night of the storm, and the world outside the crumbling house seemed to bleed shadows. Rain hammered the roof like 1,000 anxious hearts, each drop merging with the darkness that pressed against the windows. Inside, Emma paced the small living room, her hands trembling. She could feel the weight of secrets clinging to her, suffocating, like the thick air before a lightning strike. "Kim," she called, her voice cutting through the chaotic sounds of the storm. Every echo felt like a damning reminder of the truth she had hidden for far too long. Static charged the air, and for a moment, the house held its breath. From the corner, Kim stepped into view. Her face was half illuminated by the light of the flickering candle on the table. As lightning flashed, Emma caught the glimpse of her sister's worried expression, eyes wide with anticipation, yet shadowed by apprehension. "Emma, what is it?" Kim's voice was quivering, a mix of fear and confusion. "You said you needed to talk. What's happening?" Emma swallowed hard, her heart pounding like the rain outside. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head, but none of those rehearsals prepared her for the way her chest felt tight, constricted by regret. "I don't know how to tell you this." Kim stepped closer, her brow furrowing deeper. "Just say it, please." Taking a deep, Emma clenched her fists. The truth danced on her tongue, bitter and sharp. "It's about Mom. And about..." She hesitated, the memories crashing down like the thunder outside. "What about Mom?" Kim interrupted, desperation creeping into her voice. "What's going on?" "It's about her past," Emma blurted, and in that moment, the air changed. A chill slid through the room, as if the very walls were listening. Kim's face turned pale, confusion and dread colliding. Her past? What do you mean? Kim took a step back, as if bracing for impact. Emma could see the faint flicker of fear in her sister's eyes, a fear that mirrored her own. "There are things she never told us," Emma continued, her voice a fragile whisper. "Things that made her who she is." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma wanted to reach out and bridge the gap, but something held her back. The truth was heavy, and each passing second felt like an eternity. "What do you mean?" Kim pressed, her voice trembling. "What kind of things?" Emma wrestled with the memories, the truth threatening to overwhelm her with clarity and guilt. "I found some old letters, confessions. They were hidden away, but I couldn't ignore them. Not anymore." Kim's expression hardened. "What did they say?" Emma looked away, unable to meet her sister's gaze. "They talked about a man, someone who mattered to her before us. He did terrible things, and I think that's part of why we're standing here, alone in this house, piecing it all together." A flash of lightning illuminated Kim's face, a mirror of confusion and anger. "Are you saying Mom is hiding something? Something that could change everything?" The urgency in Kim's voice made Emma flinch. "I think it could explain why she's so closed off, why she won't talk about her past." Another surge of guilt washed over her, tugging at her as she fought against the shadows. The silence stretched painfully, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder. Kim shook her head, denial flashing across her features like a storm cloud. "You can't just drop this on me, you..." She paused, a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak infecting her voice. "You can't seriously think she's just kept this from us all these years?" "I do think that," Emma said, her throat tightening. I think it's been eating away at her. And now it's eating away at us." Kim looked toward the window, her thoughts swirling like the storm outside. "You're saying she made choices we don't even understand? But why now, Emma? What made you bring this up?" "Because I can't keep pretending it's not there," Emma replied, her voice trembling. It's too big to ignore. The tension crackled in the air like electricity, and tears pooled in Kim's eyes, shimmering with unspent emotions. How can you be sure? What if this is all a mistake? Emma stepped forward, her heart fighting against the urge to pull back. Because I felt it. Kim, every fiber of my being felt it. We deserve to know. For a long moment, they stood in silence, their breaths mingling with the sound of rain drumming against the roof. The world seemed to tilt, everything stirring in an uneasy harmony. The hint of an unspoken truth hung between them, dark as the storm itself. Maybe we shouldn't have opened that door, Kim whispered, an eerie calm settling over her. Emma felt a chill creep down her spine. What do you mean? Maybe some secrets are meant to stay buried. Kim turned away, her voice suddenly flat. No, Emma urged, panic rising. We can't go back. We have to confront it together. But Kim merely shook her head, moving toward the darkened hallway. Some things are better left alone. Emma. Before Emma could reach for her, another crash of thunder startled them both, a prelude to what felt like a great unraveling. She took a step forward, yearning for her sister's connection, but the rift felt like it was growing. Don't do this, Emma pleaded. Please. At that moment, the lights flickered and then went out, leaving them in darkness, their silhouettes poised at the brink of a discovery and despair. The air thickened as Kim's shadow grew distant, her whispered farewell floating through the void like a ghost. Then, in the hushed stillness, Emma heard it, a muffled sob echoing from the depths of the house, followed by a shattering silence. Something deep within her twisted, and in that darkness, all she could think was that the past had a way of breaking into the present, whether they wanted it to or not. And now it was out of their hands. The room was cold, the kind of cold that sliced through your skin and settled deep inside you. As Lucy stood in the doorway, she felt as if the air itself was made of glass shards, each breath a reminder of the betrayal she had just uncovered. She had trusted him, and now here she was, caught like a fly in a web of her own making, staring at the man she had loved with all her heart. Why, she whispered, her voice cracking like old porcelain. Mark looked up from the table, his hands shaking. The shadows danced across his face, highlighting the guilt that had crept into his features like a thief in the night. Lucy, I can explain, he said, his voice breathless, pleading. She shook her head, the tears pooling in her eyes, begging for release. But she pushed them back. You can explain. You can explain why you lied, why you kept this from me. The last word hung in the air like a stone, heavy and unforgiving. It was the kind of silence that carved itself into the very marrow of their shared history. Memories of laughter, dreams, and quiet mornings now felt like echoes from a distant life. Please, Mark said, standing up abruptly. He ran a hand through his tousled hair, frustration radiating from him like a heat wave. I never wanted you to find out this way. Then you shouldn't have hidden it. The hurt in her voice turned into anger, the heat of betrayal stinging her cheeks. Mark stepped closer, searching her face for something he could latch onto, some flicker of understanding. I thought I was protecting you. I thought you would be safer if you didn't know the truth. Safer. The word tasted bitter on her tongue. She folded her arms, feeling small and vulnerable under his gaze. Safer from what? The truth? Or safer from you? He winced, as if she had slapped him. The tension in the room thickened, becoming almost suffocating. Lucy's heart raced, each beat pounding against her ribcage, reminding her of the love she had fought for years to build. Now it felt like a house of cards, the wind having knocked it down before her eyes. We were in debt, Lucy, Mark said suddenly, his voice harsher now. tinged with desperation. It was spiraling out of control. I didn't want to drag you into my mess. I thought I could fix it on my own. And how did lying about it help? Each word fell from her lips like stones, heavy and deliberate. She raised an eyebrow, daring him to provide an answer that would soothe her raging heart. Because I thought it would all blow over. I thought I could pay the bills. I didn't want you to worry. He confessed, running a hand through his hair again, frustration and guilt tightening his features. The silence that hung between them wasn't just deep. It was like an abyss. Lucy looked away, her eyes landing on the framed photo on the mantel. Smiles frozen in time, the sunlight catching their shared joy. It felt like a ghost, haunting her with what used to be. She took a shaky breath, battling the emotions surging within her. The confusion, the disappointment. I can't believe you thought this was the right choice, she finally said, her voice quieter, almost fragile. I can't believe I don't even know who you are anymore. It was the lies that shattered everything, not the truth. Mark took a step back, as if her words physically pushed him away. He ran a hand through his hair again, looking lost. I never meant for it to hurt you. Can't you see that? His eyes were pleading, and for a moment, she almost wanted to believe him. But then another wave of heartbreak washed over her. I can't just forget. She paused, forcing the words out through the lump in her throat. You destroyed my trust. Lucy, he started, his voice hanging in the air, but the silence crept in again, filling the void where their connection used to be. She could see him trying to formulate those crucial words that might change everything. He seemed to realize that there was nothing left to say. In that moment, Lucy felt the weight of everything they had built together collapse around them. The house they had shared, the dreams they had woven, now felt like shadows, flickering out of existence. I don't know if I can forgive you, she admitted, her body trembling as she admitted the bitter truth. Mark's shoulders dropped slightly, the fight leaving him as reality settled in. He stepped even closer, his voice almost a whisper. Please don't walk away. Not like this. We can work through it. I'll do better. Doing better doesn't undo what you've done. It doesn't take back the lies. The storm in her heart raged on, battling the flicker of hope that he could change. Lucy, please. His voice cracked like a brittle twig, and she saw something in his eyes. Fear, panic, perhaps even a hint of remorse. I love you. The words hung in the air, powerful and damning. She felt their weight like a noose tightening around her heart. Did he really love her? Or had love just been another mask he wore while building his fortress of lies? Lucy turned toward the door, the chill of indecision washing over her. Her hand rested against the knob, her heart racing as she realized she was standing at the edge of a precipice. I need time, she said, barely above a whisper. With that, she opened the door and stepped into the cold night, her breath clouding in the chilling air, carrying away the warmth of the love that had once cocooned her. And behind her she heard the sound of Mark's choked sob, a heart-breaking sound echoing through the dark hallway, utterly alone. What had she just let go? Jenna stared at the glowing screen, her heart pounding so loud she thought it might burst. Two names flickered in her mind like a cruel trick of fate. Alex and Mark. The text messages were simple, but they shattered her world. I'm sorry and it's better this way. She felt trapped, the air around her thick with unspoken words and unshed tears. In the dim light of her bedroom, shadows clung to the walls like ghostly reminders of what she had almost had. The door creaked open, and her mother's voice floated in. Jenna, dinner's ready. But Jenna couldn't move. She didn't want to eat. Not now, not when everything felt torn apart. A small part of her wanted to scream, wanted to throw her phone across the room, as if it were the source of her pain. Instead, she clutched it tightly, her knuckles turning white. Every word from Alex felt like a knife digging deeper into her chest. Why? She whispered to herself, the question echoing in the silence of her room. Her bedroom was usually her sanctuary, filled with posters of closing sunsets, bookshelves teeming with adventure, and the soft scent of lavender. But now, it felt like a prison. Memories rushed back, of Alex's easy laughter and Mark's gentle gaze. But all she could think about was the betrayal. Could someone who loved her so deeply also hurt her like this? The sound of footsteps drew closer, a deliberate knock on her door. "Jenna, please, let me in," Mark pleaded, his voice low and shaky. It made her stomach twist. She wanted to throw him out, to demand answers from him, but mostly, she wanted to fall into his arms and forget everything he had done. The door creaked open, and there he was, standing with his hair disheveled and his hands shoved deep into his pockets. Anxiety twisted around his features like vines. "I just came to check on you." His eyes searched hers, but Jenna felt herself retreating. She shook her head slowly, anger bubbling under her surface. "Check on me, really? After what you did?" "Jenna, just let me explain," he said, stepping forward. But she held up her hand, cutting him off. "Explain what? How you went behind my back with Alex? How you pretended everything was fine while you were lying to my face?" Her voice cracked, and she hated the way vulnerability seeped through her rage. She wanted to be strong, but the tears she fought back felt like an acknowledgement of defeat. "I never meant for this to happen." "I love you," Mark said, genuine desperation in his voice. "But you also love him." Jenna shot back, the words like wind against a flame, igniting the hurt she had been trying to smother. "How could you even look at me after that?" Mark's face paled. "I never wanted to hurt you." He paused, searching for the right words. "I thought I could keep both of you happy, but I was wrong. Please, Jenna, I'm sorry." The way he looked at her, raw and exposed, stirred something inside her, something dangerously vulnerable. "And what about Alex?" she challenged, breathless. "How do I know he didn't just plan this? How could the two of you betray me?" "Alex loves you too." He was confused. "He didn't want to hurt you either," Mark defended, urgency creasing his brow. "It's complicated, but you're worth both of us fighting for. You deserve to be happy." A storm raged in Jenna's heart. She felt trapped, caught between two worlds, each one pulling her in different directions. She had spent so long building a perfect image of love, and now it lay in ruins. This was not what she had wanted. She took a shaky breath, trying to steady herself. "So what now? You want me to decide? Just like that?" "I want you to choose." "Yes," Mark said firmly, though his voice shook slightly. "But not just between us. Between your happiness and this pain. Listen, we both care about you, and I don't want you to lose out on love just because we messed up. Can't you see that?" Jenna's heart ached, torn between two fierce pulls. She wanted to scream and cry and hide away from both of them forever. But there was also that flicker of hope, a chance that maybe, just maybe, this could end differently than she anticipated. "Hope after this," she whispered, disbelief tainting her voice. The sharp corners of her heart softened a little at his honesty. She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of deceit. "How can I trust either of you again?" "I'll do whatever it takes to earn that back," Mark promised, shifting closer, his voice growing softer, more desperate. "Just please, give us a chance. I'm here, right now, laying it all on the line." The tension in the room was suffocating, thick with the weight of love and betrayal. It bled through every second, forming a bond that neither of them fully understood yet. Jenna struggled to breathe, fighting back overwhelming emotions that surged inside her. But as she opened her mouth to speak, her phone buzzed again, a notification lighting up the screen. Another message from Alex. I want to talk, please. Jenna's breath hitched. She was standing on the precipice of a decision that could change everything. In that moment, she realized the stakes were impossibly high, and whatever choice she made could either destroy her heart or reclaim it. She glanced at Mark, raw hope flickering in his eyes, and back down at her phone. The world once again felt achingly heavy. With every nerve shattered by the weight of the moment, Jenna's heart danced on a fragile edge, and she was left to wonder, which heart would she choose to follow? The air felt heavy, like a thick blanket suffocating Panja, as she stood in front of the smoldering remains of her childhood home. The flames had devoured everything familiar, leaving behind ashes that tangled with memories. Moments earlier, she'd seen the fire flicker out of the corner of her eye while driving home, a distant orange glow, calling forth an urgency she couldn't comprehend. Now, standing here, her heart raced with disbelief and rage. Panja's hands trembled, her fingers clenching and unclenching as she forced herself to breathe. Somewhere behind her, sirens wailed, blending with the murmurs of neighbors who gathered out of nothing but curiosity and pity. Each whisper twisted like a knife in her gut. Did you hear? The old house burned down, as if it were merely a gossipy tale, not her childhood sanctuary. Where's Mum? Where's Dad? The fear clawed at her throat as she turned towards her close friend Zoe, desperately searching her familiar face for reassurance. Zoe stepped forward, urgency vibrating in her voice. Panja, they're safe. They went to the store. I just got here when... She stopped, choking on the words. Panic surged in her eye. I thought. They both stood still for a moment that stretched into eternity, the crackling of embers punctuating the silence like an unwanted reminder of what was lost. Panja could feel the weight of unexpressed thoughts thrumming between them, a thread of shared grief unspoken, yet understood. They're okay, Panja whispered, though the words felt like a fragile promise. She turned her gaze back to the stark remains, her heart thundering against the hard cage of her ribs. The skeletal structure of what had once been home stood as a tragic monument. It was a dark void, swallowing every cherished memory she ever had. Panja felt a hand on her shoulder. Zoe's touch grounded her, a lifeline in the chaos swirling around. You're not alone. I'm here. Let's find your parents. No! Panja shot back, stepping away. She shook her head, biting back tears. You don't understand. They lost everything. I lost everything. The words exploded from her, fiery like the flames that had reduced her past to dust. Zoe took a step back, hurt flashing across her face. But then she softened. I know it's hard, and it's okay to be angry, but you need to focus on what's important right now. Important? The word tasted bitter. What's important is the memories that disappeared along this house. What about the Christmases? The birthdays? Mom's blueberry pie? It's all gone. Her voice broke under the weight of her grief, and for a moment, the facade of strength crumbled. Zoe watched, her expression a mix of sadness and understanding. Panja, she began, reaching out cautiously. Material things can burn, but your family, the love that you share, that can't burn away. Panja clenched her jaw. She wasn't ready to let go of the past. Each flicker in her memory was tied to those walls. Every laugh, every tear, shared within those rooms. How can you say that? You don't know what it's like to watch everything just disappear. Silence flooded the space between them, the weight of regret lingering. Zoe took a deep breath, her voice steady now. I may not know exactly, but I've lost people I love. I understand the ache, but you can't let this destroy you, Panja. You're stronger than you think. Panja looked into Zoe's eyes, searching for the courage that felt absent within her. Beneath the pain, she could see the warmth and resolve that Zoe offered. It was a lifeline, but the depth of despair clouded her thoughts. What do I do? We rebuild, Zoe said quietly, and Panja could hear the promise of hope in her words. They stood together, the embers warming their faces with a bittersweet glow. But then, out of the corner of her eye, Panja saw a figure emerging from the haze. Her heart dropped. It was her father, coughing, wild-eyed. He stumbled, catching himself against a lamppost. "Dad," she cried, rushing toward him. He looked so small, as if the smoke had consumed his strength. "Panja, I thought you were inside. Is your mother? She's safe." They went to the store. Relief washed over her, momentarily overshadowing the fear. But then, as if the winds shifted, she noticed the tension in her father's shoulders. "Panja, I need to tell you something." He hesitated, his gaze drifting towards the ruins. "I thought you'd want to hear it from me." "What? What is it?" His eyes flickered away, unable to meet hers. "The fire. It wasn't an accident." The world around her spun with those words. "What do you mean?" Bewilderment gripped her heart, unraveling the thread of newfound hope. "Your uncle, he had debts. Huge debt. I didn't want to believe it, but I found out." He choked on the confession. "I think he set the fire to cash in on the insurance." Every bone in her body went cold, the ashes swirling around her like ghosts of betrayal. Inside, a storm raged. "You're saying this was deliberate?" Before she could process the implications, Zoe's voice broke through, a frantic whisper. "Panja, behind you." She turned just as another figure stepped into view. Someone she hadn't seen in years. Her heart sank. "Uncle Ray?" He smirked, the flicker of the fire reflecting in his eyes. "Did you think I'd let you off that easy?" Panja felt like the ground had disintegrated beneath her. Everything she thought she knew about her life, her family, was now entwined in a web of betrayal and ruin. In that moment, she understood. Rising from the ashes wouldn't be as simple as she'd hoped. It wouldn't just be about rebuilding, it would mean battling against the very people who were supposed to protect her. The urgency of the scene intensified as her heart raced. Secrets, fires, betrayal echoed in her thoughts. She folded her hands into fists, determination igniting through the raw emotional pain. None of this could take her down, not now. She had to fight for the truth amidst the wreckage. But first, she needed to confront the man who had brought this ruin upon her. "What did you do, Uncle?" she demanded. And just like that, the battle for her life, her memories and her family began.